What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. Been a while, long weekend. We got a lot to talk about. We're really excited to get into all the things that John Harbaugh talked about yesterday, among others. But before we get into those things, talk about what we're going to talk about today. If you're a Ravens fan, hit the subscribe button. Turn on your notifications and give us a like. Leave your comments below. We love interacting with you guys. But we got some juicy topics today on today's show. Glenn, what are we talking about? What is the topic and premise of today's episode?
Yeah, so of course, John Harbaugh recently had his end of the year press conference. It spanned roughly 45 minutes and talked about a ton of different topics. So like Jimmy said, hit that notification bell because we're talking about a lot of different topics. But the first one we're going to start was, of course, he was asked about the status of Greg Roman and is he going to be returning as the offensive coordinator for the 2022 season. And while he said that's his expectation, you know, that he said it's he expects him to be back. He thinks that Greg Roman wants to be back. And then he says, but it's still early. This is quote, but it's still early. But that's the plan, and I'm excited about it. We've done some pretty darn good things here offensively, end quote. So the interesting thing about that is that typically if you were going to have your offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator back and he was at all being criticized by the media, the fan base, or there were any rumblings about, you know, displeasure with his job in the past, and what I would expect a head coach to do is to come out and defiantly say, you know, yes, we're bringing him back. We feel great about it. You know, we've been talking a lot about the offense, but it was almost as if he said, yeah, that's the plan, but it's still early and things can happen and change fast in this league.
Yeah.
Not a ringing endorsement, right, Jimbo?
No, you know, it's funny because John used that same phrase when he said, I expect Lamar to be back next week after the foot injury, right? Like, my expectation is. So, point is, things change. And the reason I think this is important is because a lot of people, I saw that video live, at least a portion of it. I saw that portion of it. And the comments on YouTube went nuts, went insane, saying fire Roman this, get him out of here that. Well, all of you guys that are in this camp, listen up. John said it's early. Nothing is for sure. Like, he was giving himself every single out that he could possibly give himself. He was hedging his bet in every single way that he could. And so, like you said, not only was it not a ringing endorsement, it also was an exit route at every single opportunity up to the 11th hour for John Harbaugh, right? To say, now don't forget, guys, that I said X in my presser, right? Yep. So there's still a very real, I won't say likely or anything like that, but a very real possibility that Greg Roman is not here next year. Now, I guess, Glenn, really what I want to know is what you think that depends on.
Yeah, so there's a few things. The first of which is a domino we just saw fall just a few hours ago, and that was, you know, T. Martin was being interviewed for the vacant offensive coordinator position in Buffalo, and right now he seems like it's between him and James Urban as the obvious on staff replacements for Greg Roman if there was going to be a firing and moving on now or in season. Well, it just got released that Ken Dorsey was hired as the offensive coordinator. And so while T. Martin interviewed for the job, ultimately did not get the job. So right now he's still on the staff. But the other thing is the biggest chip about this is really what's going on with Jim Harbaugh over at Michigan. Because apparently today, it was either yesterday or today, the Minnesota Vikings executives flew to Michigan to interview Jim Harbaugh about their open offensive coordinator. Head coaching job. And so, you know, you look back at you know, first of all, we just took the defensive coordinator from Jim, and he really didn't seem to mind losing him, which was, you know, I mean, I'm sure it's a promotion, so you kind of allow your guys to chase promotions
right,
if the opportunities are there. But he seemed awfully okay with losing his very new defensive coordinator, had a big impact. But most importantly, if you look back at his successful years in San Francisco when he led them to the Super Bowl, his defensive coordinator was Vic Fangio, who's right now looking for a job, and I'm sure would love to be reunited with Jim Harbaugh, considering the success they had and the fact that when he was their defensive coordinator, they had the number 2 defense against the when it comes to scoring. And then his offensive coordinator was, of course, Greg Roman, and the success he had there was obvious when they went to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
I could see some scenarios where Jim might want to say, you know what? I had a lot of success with Greg before. Why not try and recreate a similar staff that I had when I had that success in San Fran and bring that to Minnesota, who, I mean, as we see, have a ton of offensive talent.
Yeah, when you brought that up, it really started to, get the gears running in my mind and made me think, maybe this is a real possibility. I think honestly, if you read through the lines of what John Harbaugh said, it's basically like, I don't know yet. Things are still under development, right? Things are still up in the air. Basically nothing more than he's contractually obligated to be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's it, right?
He didn't seem thrilled about it.
Right.
So
it's really going to be interesting to see how this goes moving forward. Now, if I had to bet my money though, Glenn, so I understand what you're saying. It depending on one of the things that could depend on was Jim Harbaugh. But I guess my other question is, I wonder if there's anything else that it could depend on. For example, a guy that John really likes coming available. So for example, what if John really likes Kubiak's son up in Minnesota, and Jim goes to Minnesota? Yeah, Jim goes to Minnesota, and he's like, well, take little Kubiak, right?
Yeah, trade.
And, right, give me Roman type thing.
The only thing about that is it's such a different offense. I mean, all your players would have to then be turned over because you got big power guys, and instead you would need more finesse guys that can move their feet.
Right, but my point,
talking about linemen, of course.
Right, but my point in saying that is simply, I wonder if there's a guy out there that would compel John to let Greg go. Are there any guys that come to mind for you?
Well, the reason that's such a good point is because there's still like 8 or 9 other staffs that have to be hired right now. So you're 100% right. There might be a guy who right now is interviewing for head coaching opportunities. But if he ultimately doesn't land that, then he's willing to, maybe he's already talked to John and willing to come and be the offensive coordinator. So a guy you brought up an awful lot is Doug Peterson.
Right? I got a hunch, Glenn. No sources, but I got a hunch that if things fall right, if they just fall right, and he doesn't, like, if I'm him, I don't want the Jags job.
He just got a second interview with him. So
I'm just saying, if I'm him, I'm not touching the Jags job. But obviously, he's interested, or else he wouldn't have taken the second interview.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't get a role,
I think it could be a guy. I mean, he'd be perfect for. But he's also, there's probably a ton of guys that he has relationships. We have no idea who.
Right.
But yeah, it is one big name. The question is, does he want to be an OC or is he just holding out to be a head coach? Which a guy who's won a Super Bowl. I could see everybody's a little arrogant at that level. I could see his arrogance not letting him settle for an offensive coordinator position.
Right. Are there any other guys that you think that you can think of it, that come to mind for you? I agree with you. There's going to be a lot of names that we don't.
Could be T. Martin himself. I mean, it could be they were waiting. Maybe T said, look, I want to go see what's up in Buffalo. And if that doesn't, then I'd love to apply and do an interview. I mean, I think it's just interesting that John did not come out and defiantly defend Greg Roman. He just didn't. I mean, he talked about the offense did some good things in the last few years and all that, but he also mentioned that the evolution of Lamar as a passer makes the scheme runs that really is what makes Greg who he is and the talent that he is aren't as needed this year like they were in 2019. Because of the developments in his passing ability. So he's also kind of making it seem like, well, we don't really need all that like we did in 2019. Now we can. So he's just leaving the door awfully wide open, Jimbo.
Yeah, not a crack, not slightly open. The door is wide open, and the light is shining in on Greg Roman. So we will see. It's going to be really interesting. But let us know what you guys think. What did you think of John's lack of endorsement of Greg Roman and him leaving the opportunity open for anything to change the offensive coordinator? Do you see any changes being made? If so, any names out there you guys like that maybe we're missing? Leave all your thoughts on Greg Roman below. Consider it a therapy session if you would like.
You can
But
there you go.
that's right. Leave all your comments in the section below, and we'll talk to you guys.